How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to TheBlueShifting and welcome back to Chaoschild, where last episode was... wild is not the word. It had some moments. Had some for sure moments. But it's also kicking off really fast. He basically went over his evidence, kind of tying the fact that the current new gen killings, which already had some parallels, are also coinciding on the exact same days as the originals, just 6 years later. And the prediction is that if this is more than just a coincidence, then another new gen killing should happen today. And then Onoe calls and said, "Hey, I think something happened today, just like you thought, over here in this like love hotel." So we rushed over there in the middle of school. And we're gonna investigate. And we also had a really interesting interaction with what's her name. We've only seen her for one episode, like, well, two technically, but I only like knew her more than just having the initial impression. It's not just Coco. No, she had a longer name. And I was talking about how like she has this kind of sister energy, and specifically a big sister energy, but her name was different. So I was like, oh, she can't be actually our sister. And then the way they had a conversation just now, it implies almost that he's been like adopted by them, and so she is his sister, just not by blood. It's like an adoptive situation, which is interesting. Certainly makes a potential, if there were a sister romance route, it'd be a lot more palatable than the sister route in Gosh Head, but still, it's interesting. I'm very interested to see how their relationship like works out, like where that comes from, what's going on there. But we're a bit distracted now because we're gonna go investigate probably a very disturbing crime scene. So we're gonna jump in right now and kind of see how this all plays out. So thank you so much for joining me today. Hope you enjoyed yourselves and hope you're enjoying yourself as much as I am. I love making this stuff. So let's see what horrors await, shall we? The stairs are over there though. We went inside the hotel from the rear entrance and hid behind a corner that led to the lobby. By the way, Onoe, like our plan was to say, okay, Onoe, you and I are gonna go in. We're gonna pretend to be lovers. That way people won't be questioning us. And she's like, okay. But the counterpoint that I think somebody made, but I totally agree with, is like, yeah, even if you're showing up at a love hotel pretending to be lovers, and that might get by, the fact that you're in your school uniforms is gonna be causing some issues. Now, granted, a love hotel isn't the most reputable place. Maybe the staff would not be that invested and maybe turn a blind eye. But I think they could get in legal trouble if they actually got caught, like, letting you come in here. So, I don't know. I'm not sure what the laws in Japan are regarding that kind of stuff. I also, because technically, if you're both of similar age, even if you're underage, like, it's not like I don't think there'd be a legal problem with it in that sense, but I do know that truancy from school in Japan is very problematic. It's something that they kind of crack down on, but I don't know if it's a legal crackdown or like it's just a very harsh social one. But anyway, moving on. This is my first time inside a love hotel, and it was a lot less gaudy than I'd expected. I'm guessing you're kind of a lot of love hotels in Japan from the impression I've got from like travel vloggers and things is that a lot of them are they're cheap and kind of corny, maybe a little seedy. Like, I'm not sure if are there love hotels that are like on the high end that would be like really bougie and very like, I don't know, like kind of up to speed. I don't know. The name was false advertising. There were no fairies and no one was dancing. Oh yeah, this fairies dance was what it's called. Maybe the quiet atmosphere was a selling point, but...
ですから、人を早くよこしてください。いや、それは新庄さんに聞いてください。
Shinjo-san. The silence is ruined by the sound of a police officer screaming into his phone. He was either confused or just excited because he kept saying the same things over and over and over again. Something had happened after all, and something bad enough that he needed backup. This was my chance. If we could get to the scene before the place is overflowing with cops, we might be able to find an unexpected scoop and contaminate potential evidence. But, you know, we're going to gloss over that because it's a story.
はい、それは間違いありません。確認しました。ですが、こちらでは判断が。いえ、ですからそういう状態じゃないんです。くそ。
The cop was in the way. Whether we took the stairs or the elevator, we needed to go through the lobby to get to them.
タク、行くよ。
How?
早く。
What? What's your plan? Serica took me by the arm as if we were a couple and entered the lobby without trying to hide at all. Man, she's just blatant. Because again, too, I talked about before, maybe a proprietor of the hotel would turn an eye, but a cop? I mean, he's probably a bit panicked, but still. She ignored me and walked straight for the stairs. Gotta like her gumption, though.
Oi!
The cop must have seen us because he yelled at us from behind. Shoot. He probably hasn't seen our faces. Should we run? No, that would just make us look suspicious.
部屋から出るなと言っているだろう。はい。いえ、すいません、大丈夫です。それより早く応援を。
He started to mumble into the phone. Oh, interesting. It's like he doesn't see us as students who are walking into the building. It's like he sees us as potential tenants or people who are staying here. Is he just confused? Or are we seeing some of them, like... Because the thing is, like, we know that at some point they're going to be addressing gigalomaniacs. And there's a good chance that at least a few of the people we know are going to be gigalomaniacs. So if Onoe is already a gigalomaniac, can she influence the way people see us, you know, our perceptions? We crossed the lobby without looking back. Holy crap, that actually worked.
無茶するなよ。へへん。でも、タクの言った通りだったじゃん。ごまかせたごまかせた。
You were able to fool him. Our boy panicked. That was too close for comfort. My heart was pounding so loud the noise was making me sick. Could I not tell we were high school students? No, even if he only saw us from behind, he should have been able to tell by our uniforms. Why didn't he arrest us? Maybe he's panicking so much that the thought never occurred to him.
てと、どうしようか。
Oh, we gotta get to the right floor. What floor did we see? Was it the third? Serica let go of my arm and turned toward me. That's right. Now isn't the time to be thinking about other things.
外から見たあの場所が現場かどうかはわからないけど、とりあえず3階から当たろう。そこが外れだったら他の場所を見ていく。警察の応援が来たらそこで切り上げ。でも警察の様子から見て、やっぱり何か事件があったんだ。絶対に撮って帰ろう。
Get photos, and I'm guessing it'll be hard to miss. But they might have chosen to shut the door to prevent anyone from wandering in.
オッケー。
It was quiet. The policeman's voice was still drifting up the stairs, but it only made the silence seem more oppressive. Just like he'd said, the customers had probably been told to not leave their rooms. It was too late for that to matter now, but I was starting to feel a little scared. Come to think of it, if something had happened, maybe the killer was still here.
そういえばタク、まだのんちゃんと喧嘩しちゃってるんだね。
Little off topic, but yes. Setika's voice was relaxed. I was grateful. I'd taken any opportunity to relieve the tension.
喧嘩ってわけじゃないよ。
No, maybe it was.
でもまだクルスって呼んでるんでしょ？気持ちはわかるけど、なんとかならないかな？
Kurusu. Yeah, that's right. Until half a year ago, I'd call her Nono for her first name. Oh, dang. Yeah, because that makes sense. So if they were, if he was adopted into the family, right? It makes sense. Go by first name. Very, very relatable. Related. You're basically family. Your family, and you relate to each other like that. So for him to shift from calling her by her first name to be calling her by her last name, a formal name, something you would do with maybe friends at like friends, maybe not close friends, but friends or acquaintances. That's a very culturally heavy move to make. After the incident that had caused me to leave the dorm, I'd never called her that again. Oh. As long as I kept calling her Kurusu, she'd keep being mad at me. It must have been hurting something important, some important part of her.
タク、
See, that's the thing. This Taku at least understands basic, like, human interaction. Like, Taku from the first game, it was like he was an alien walking around. Now, granted, he kind of was, but still, it was hard to relate to that. This Taku at least understands, like, yeah, I'm probably causing this, or she's probably thinking that. And he's, like, had reasonable expectations. Is he going to be accurate all the time? No. Because he's still pretty detached from just other people. But,
Oh,
next thing I knew, we were on the 3rd floor. Sedaka had gone ahead of me at some point and was poking her head around the corner into the hallway.
誰もいないみたい。
よし。
Good. I took out my phone and got ready. Got ready to record. Alright, so far so good. As soon as we went to the 3rd floor hallway, I found myself holding my breath. My heart was pounding even louder than when the cop had yelled at us. Tried to control myself and look down the corridor. The rooms must have been very big because the gap between the doors was large. The floor was red, sinking into black. Red sinking into black as the hallway stretched away. I could hear the unpleasant sound of blowing air. They must have had the air conditioning on. There were no windows, and there wasn't a lot of light, so the hallway looked pretty creepy, but there was nothing out of the ordinary about it otherwise. Still, it was strange. The air felt solid. It felt like somebody would jump out from the shadows the second you let your guard down, or perhaps that was there were traps scattered everywhere along the floor. For a second, the floor seemed to be stained with blood, but I shook that image out of my mind. What was this? Like it was like a fear you feel in the darkness at night. Was it just because there was so little light? No, it was worse than that. Felt like someone was watching me and enjoying my unease. Whose eyes are those eyes? It was like they were peering deep into my heart.
タク
I almost jumped off the ground with a start.
どうしたの
Okay, so here's the interesting thing. Again, we're so early. I can't be actually making very big predictions here. But here's another thing. That feeling is very relatable and very similar to the whose eyes are those eyes, right? So there's a possibility here. If Taku, like from the first game, Takumi, if he's been able to grow up and mature and master his powers a bit better, it's likely he's unlocked very similar powers to the original Takumi, but maybe on a grander scale. Maybe because he's born of a delusion, his lifespan may not be tied to his delusions quite as well, or he might have a lot more to pull, if that makes sense. Now, then again, who knows? Maybe Takumi is going to be an 80-year-old man in this one. But regardless of that, if he is similar to his original form and has the ability to have remote viewing via whose eyes are those eyes, or he's taught himself how to do that, what would happen if Takumi from the first game became corrupted or became convinced that he was doing the world a favor by becoming a new gen killer again? Or say somehow he's gone off the deep end, right? He could be watching through the eyes of gigalomaniacs or potential gigalomaniacs and looking for their reactions. Because that feeling of oppressiveness, but again, that oppressive feeling and the evilness of that feeling might be made up. Maybe instead of that, maybe there's somebody, maybe he's watching to kind of be an observer of the instance, but because it's like eyes on the back of your head, it feels malicious because that feeling makes us feel creeped out. It's our instincts telling us that we're not alone. But when you can remotely trigger it, it's got to be really disconcerting. Don't just talk to me out of nowhere like that. What is she supposed to do? You scared the heck out of me.
なんでもない。なんか変じゃないか。
I gestured down the hallway with my head. Sedaka looked past me into the darkness.
そりゃ暗いからなんか不気味だけど、雰囲気作りとかじゃないの？
Was it? Was that all? Was I being too sensitive? I tried flipping the light switch on the wall next to me, but nothing happened. Maybe the bulbs were burned out, or maybe it wasn't the switch for the hallway at all. Dang it. It wasn't 1407 or something. Wait, isn't that like a horror movie? Fictional. A 2007 American horror movie about a hotel room where all the occupants commit suicide based on the work of the master of modern horror, Stephen King. Stephen King. And I think it's supposed to be, I think the original is 1807, I think. But yeah, that's the whole idea, is that there was some malevolent force in that room that caused repeated suicides. I turn around. The only person there is Seneca. No one else was looking at me. I took some time to make sure of it before I spoke.
行くぞ。
She's a good companion. Seneca nodded cheerfully and stayed behind me as we walked deeper into the hallway. I remembered the location of the window I'd seen outside. It was probably deeper in the hall, the furthest one back, or the one before it.
あの二つのどちらかかな。
I walked as silently as I could down the long hallway towards the last rooms on the left side. With every step I took, I could feel the sensation of the hallway floor looking through the bottom. I could feel the sensation of the hallway floor through the bottom of my heels. It was like I was being forced to think about nerves I had never used. My body felt very tense. He's just panicking, really. Like I think he's having almost a borderline panic attack. He's just really stressed. I didn't see any cops in the hallway. Usually they'd at least leave one person here at the scene. Well, this cop might be by himself. Was this the wrong floor? 306. We reached the second to last door. Room 306. Oh boy. I listened carefully but didn't hear anything revealing. I also don't like that a quick saved. That's disturbing. Do we negative? Are we positive? I think we need a bump up because I think we're gonna find something horrible. So let's do a positive one. Just the quiet rumbling of the air conditioner.
覗き穴とかないの?
Come on.
ここはラブホテルだぞ。
ああ、そっか。
おい、何を。
What?
ノック。
Oh my gosh.
お前な。
And then suddenly the door opened. We didn't expect anyone to open it, so both Seneca and I froze. And then they came out.
あら、坊やたちが次のお客さんかしら。
It was a voluptuous woman with long hair, and she's completely naked. Huh. It's a big field of white. I can't make out anything. Again, this is one of those things that makes me wonder, because you never know with Steam. Steam usually has some kind of you gotta change things up a bit. Did the original actually have artwork here, or is it supposed to be like this? And not only that, her body was nice as any you'd seen in a magazine. Wait, she didn't look like didn't she look a lot like a model or actress I saw on TV?
タク、見ちゃダメ。
かわいいお客さんね。入って。
Oh my gosh, yeah, this is so a delusion. Holy crap.
あ、いえ。
そういうんじゃないんで。
いいのよ。お嬢さんも一緒でも。
In other words, what exactly?
すっごく気持ちよくさせてあげる。だから、おいで。
Mm-mm.
タク、どうしよう。
If this was real, you'd just, nope, out of there.
お前、なんでちょっと入る気になってるんだ。
だって。
Seneca's face was red with embarrassment. She whispered softly.
気持ちよくなりたいし。
Oh my gosh. Little pout face, very cute, notwithstanding, very cute. But oh my gosh. This dude has got... He is feelings.
そんな状況じゃないだろ。
Something was wrong with me. Yes.
そんな状況って？
Dang it. I said what I was thinking out loud.
いや、なんでもない。
Seneca was knocking on the door at the room 306, but no one was answering.
警察もいないし、この階じゃないのかもな。
Well, might as well try. What was that? I flinched back at the sudden noise. What was that? The sound of glass breaking?
隣からだったよな。
She was clinging to my back in surprise with her hands on my shoulders.
多分、奥でしょ？
Seneca pointed to the next room. What are we doing? We stood there for a moment. The violent sound must have scared her because Seneca's easygoing mood had totally vanished. We waited for a while and nothing more happened. There was no voice or sound of struggle. The hallway was the same as ever. But I was imagining it, or was the hall a little darker than before? Alright, want to point out, dude, time is of the essence. If cops are racing here, you might have like 5 minutes now. You need to be like, if you're gonna go for this, go for it. Otherwise, you get out of here.
戻った方がいいか。
Seneca didn't answer my question. She didn't seem afraid, but she had a serious look on her face as she stared down the hall. Maybe something had happened and the killer was still there? No, wait. I need to think about that rationally. There was an officer on the first floor who'd called for backup. Usually when the call came in, the police never went there alone. There was always more than one. I found out myself during my reporting, so I was sure of it. So there had to be another officer at the scene. The killer couldn't just be hiding there. If there was a chance of that, the cop wouldn't have just told us to go back to our rooms. Did the killer break the glass during the struggle? No, that didn't make sense either. If there wasn't any chance of them being able to do that, wouldn't the officer have gone downstairs? He'd probably gone down there to tell the front desk not to let anyone else in. I had no proof, but it should be okay. More than anything, I hadn't taken any photos yet. Uh-oh. What? I jumped literally when I heard the sudden sound. It was a very strange sound, one that didn't belong here at all. I looked and saw Seneca had gotten so nervous that she'd taken out her Garo strap and started to play with it. Oh, I thought it was footsteps. She probably didn't even know she was doing it. I softly poked her with my elbow. I motioned for her to keep quiet, and she seemed confused, but then she realized what she was doing and quickly put the strap back in her pocket. As soon as she was done, I looked down the hall once more. All the way to the front of the room. We should head there. I tried to steel myself and looked over my shoulder once more to make sure no one else was there and started to walk forward very carefully. I was afraid of making even the slightest sound. Seneca followed me wordlessly, with her hand on my shoulder. I grabbed her hand with my free hand. The other was holding my smartphone. Aw, it's so sweet. She squeezed it tight. The feeling of her hand kept me strong as I walked forward. Okay, the next room. 405. Room 405, the room at the far end of the hallway. Just like room 406, I had a plain old door, but it felt like it was exuding an intense pressure.
ここからだよね。
She was asking about the sound.
多分な。
I answered despite not having any proof at all. We waited but still heard nothing. God, I'm feeling intense too. I looked around once more to make sure no one was there and then put my ear up against the door. And then I heard a small sound. It was the sound I'd heard outside, the sound of the windows, like a music box playing. It was relaxed and peaceful, even if I weren't. It played the same tune over and over.
この部屋だ。窓が開いていた部屋。
Seneca was looking at me.
開く？
Come on, steal yourself. You can just touch the door. You can go for it. No, that's... I hesitated, but she put her hand on the doorknob.
ダメ。
Almost relieved. Okay, she seemed relieved, but a little upset. I knew exactly how she felt. I felt the same way. I moved away from the door. Would have liked to take some photos before I left, but...
今、鍵の音しなかった？
Yeah, that was what it sounded like. We were too confused to move. There was no sign of anyone coming out. I slowly touched the doorknob. It turned. The door was unlocked. Okay, so we're now in a very bad situation here because Most likely, someone's in the room, just open the door. Unlock the door. Why would they do that? Option 1, there's a cop in there, assuming that their partner is here, and for some reason they don't feel like talking. Maybe they got something covering their mouth because something smells bad, or maybe they're just trying not to throw up, whatever. Assuming that their cop partner is at the door, and they unlock it. Option 2, this isn't the right room, and somebody's in there unlocking the door. But why wouldn't they be saying anything or coming out if they unlock the door intentionally? Option 3, there's a killer still here, and they unlock the door, and maybe they then went to hide. But what's the point of hiding if you're going to also invite people to come in? But you see, those are all problems on if there's somebody in the room. The other problem is if there's no one in the room. Because then that lock just unlocked itself. And if it's unlocking itself, in this universe, that means that there's somebody who's using delusions to do so. And if that's what's going on, then we are being observed by somebody who's using the same powers that the old Taku had. And the other thing is what we're having here is, why would they want us to see this? Maybe there was a malevolence in those eyes. And if there was, they want us because they want to see people's reactions to these things. And that feels a lot like the Sua from the first game, who took a malicious pleasure in seeing people suffering pain and horror. He thrived off the fear. So, who or what are we dealing with here? How? That was the loudest swallow I've ever heard. As if guided by all the strange things that were happening, I pushed the record button on my smartphone. It's too bad he hadn't been recording that. That would have been interesting. I gripped the doorknob tighter. A voice in my mind told me to stop, to go back, but it was wiped out by the sound of a smartphone recording starting and the door slowly opening. The more I opened, the less I was able to ignore my curiosity. Felt like something besides Sadako was pushing me forward as I opened the door. Here we go. That song was playing in the dimly lit room. All the lights were off, but the sun outside was streaming through the open window. Its light was very weak. The curtain in front of me, which partitioned off a part of the room, was blocking the light. It's behind the curtain, because the window's open, so there should be light. I gulped and realized my lips were dry. I ran my tongue over them to wet them a little, and then realized my heart was pounding. The sound was so loud, I thought my heart might have somehow moved up into my ears. It seemed to be beating out some bizarre rhythm, and it was making me sick. I forced myself to swallow my saliva and hoped it would keep me from throwing up. Then I took a slow step forward. I held up my phone to record what I was seeing, and then realized something. The curtain wasn't partitioning the room. It was a bed. There was a raised spot off the floor of the circular bed surrounded by a curtain. The light was streaming out from behind it. The window we'd seen on the other side of it. The windows we'd seen were on the other side of it. And the song seemed to be coming from there as well. Crap, it was too dark. I went to flip the nearby light switch and forced myself to stop. No. I couldn't touch anything in the room. Some kind of crime must have taken place here. But I was scared to go any deeper into the darkness. My shoes made my steps sound loud against the floor. There was no response. The only relaxed melody. I gave the signal to Sadako, who was still behind me, and we went deeper into the room. The creaking. What? For a moment, I just...
なんか金属がきしむ音みたいな。
Felt like I was hearing it between the gaps of the music box's melody. But there was no change I could see. No one jumped out, nothing was moving. There was just the sound of the music box. I looked from one part of the room to the other to make sure nothing was amiss. And then I slowly moved forward. You gotta admit, he's terrified, but he's working it. Okay. Someone was lying on the floor. When my eyes adjusted to the gloom, I saw... Oh no, the other officer? A police officer. Oh, and a woman? The officer was lying up against the bathroom with his legs splayed and his head drooping. The girl was lying on the floor face down. They showed no signs of noticing us. No, that wasn't right. There's something in the window! He looks like he might be dead. She's probably just a worker here, actually. The glass behind them was shattered into 1,000 pieces.
Yabai.
Yeah, this is bad. The second I understood what was going on, my hand holding the smartphone started to shake. Oh god, oh god, oh god. I could see a little blood dripping from the police officer's head. There's the creak. I spun around as I heard the sound. The warmth drained from my face in an instant, and my whole body shivered. Someone's sitting on the bed. I staggered back and slammed into Sadaka.
逃げよう。早く。
But I couldn't move. My hand was frozen as I pointed the smartphone toward whomever was behind the curtain, and it wasn't doing what I told it to. Dang it! I took a step back, tripped, and fell to the floor. My lungs weren't working right. The silhouette moved a little, and I flinched. No, it didn't move. The bed was rotating. Whoever was behind the curtain showed no sign of noticing us. They didn't budge an inch. Oh, he heard his own voice in his head. That's interesting. Oh gosh! Sadaka's voice sounded like it was far away. What sick prank is this? I ran back to the entrance and slammed myself into the door. It's not opening. It's not opening!
なんで開かないんだよ。
Oh, fetch. Sadaka yelled back at me. Sadaka screamed as she slammed against the door. I helped her try to batter it down. But it didn't work. It was like we were trying to batter down a wall. Oh no. Suddenly I heard a knock at the door. I reflexively jumped away without thinking. Oh no! It's that knock! Oh, fetch. Oh no. Oh. Oh no. First time I was like, oh, someone knocking at the door. That's weird. The second time, it hit me what that was. It was coming from behind this door. The knocking was rhythmic and constant. It was just a knock at the door, but my whole body started to shake. Someone was on the other side of the door. Someone was knocking. It definitely wasn't the police. It felt as if my sanity is boiling away, melting out from the soles of my feet on upward.
ダメだ。ダメだ。
Don't open the door. Right, go to back. Go out the back.
窓から何とかして逃げよう。
Yeah, we're not gonna be able to use that. I grabbed Sadaka's hand. We ran to the back of the room. Oh, there's something in the bed. And fell silent at what I saw. What was this? Oh no. The curtain was open. There was a man there sitting. No, he was moving slowly. The bed was moving in time to the sound of the music box. And the eerie sound came from the wires wrapped around his neck. The wires hanging down from the ceiling, choking him. His face was all puffed up and it was cold, the color I'd never seen before. His pants were wet, the stain extended to the bed itself. The smell of piss and crap hitting my nose. He wasn't alive, he was dead. Oh, we bit off a lot more we could chew. At least record it, dude. Why was he dead? Did he suffocate? Why was the curtain open? And what the hell was he doing? Why was he dead? My right hand moved without realizing it. I needed to use the window to escape, but I pointed my phone at the camera at the body instead. My body spun slowly. Each time it went around, the wire made an awful sound that dug deeper into his neck. Oh gosh. Oh no. That must have been the slowest death imaginable. Oh my gosh. And it's gonna cut his head off soon. It dug so deep by now the man's neck was the size of my wrist. The skin must have been broken because it was bleeding a little. Come on. Come on, get out of there. Statika's right next to me, but her voice sounded far away like she was talking through a telephone. I need to get out of here. But I couldn't stop the filming. Why was I doing this? Why was he dead? The wire dug deeper and deeper into his neck without waiting for me to come up with an answer. The body turned away from me. I could see the back of its neck. The flesh around the wire was swollen and red and black. I heard a muffled sound like something had snapped inside of a bag. The head slumped just a little. There it goes. Oh gosh, his neck had just broken. It must have been the sound of his neck breaking. I could hear Sadaka's voice. Get out of here. Get out of here. Survival instincts of a frickin'... I don't know, nothing. My body moved as I heard another sound. It spun around. Oh my gosh, she's awake. Who the fetch are you? Why are your eyes purple? And she's got the bleeding thing, like she's under the effect of whatever's going on. Yeah, that's pretty horrifying. I screamed. And then I heard something from behind me. I don't know what it did. But the next thing I knew, my whole field of vision turned red. Then I felt something like a ball hit me. Before I could understand what it was, everything faded to black. We never saw what was in the window. Because it looked like there was a figure in the window. Like, I'm not crazy about that, am I? Like, and I think it looked like the lady that we saw walking in the street that had strange eyes and was wearing a dress. Like, it looked like that dress. So is that the person maybe who's like allowing who's performing these delusions maybe? But then who's the group of people who are knocking on the door? Okay, there's some weird stuff going on here. September 30th, 2015, Wednesday. midnight. It's a man. Are you gonna betray me like Suwa did?
Shinjo-san, 所持品と防犯カメラの映像から親族に裏取れました。
Okay.
死亡したのは柿田博則22歳。渋谷在住のフリーターで更新でマーケティングのアルバイトをしていたようです。
SafeWorks. Let's see what that is. A venture capital company located in Shibuya that participated in post-earthquake reconstruction business. SafeWorks is known for investing an incredibly large amount of money in order to monopolize on construction companies involved in the reconstruction. Following this, they have moved on to other projects involving the introduction of new infrastructure, such as the proposal, development, and installation of high-powered security cameras around the city for the sake of maintaining public order. They have also made a humongous effort in supplying business models and partnership opportunities to various nonprofits and volunteer groups, as well as helping establish self-sufficient communities among the survivors. As a result of their actions, their profits have skyrocketed. However, despite the company's assistance, some earthquake survivors and other local residents claim that SafeWorks is a cruel, tyrannical company that does not hesitate to use evictions and eminent domain to forcibly seize any property they want in the name of reconstruction. Yeah, that's what we were seeing a lot of in Maui when it had those fires, was basically these companies coming in and kind of strong-arming survivors to say, hey, we're going to help you, we're going to give you this fantastic deal on your land. Basically robbery, by using a crisis to make profit.
更新でバイト？恋人は？
いません。同居人もなし。一人暮らしだったようです。
くそ。
No connections means it's no easy leads. Shinjo cursed. If he was single and not in a relationship, it would take time to figure out his private life. And SafeWorks was one of the companies that had profited the most from the recovery project in recent years, part-timer or not. If he worked there, he was probably pretty busy. It was possible his co-workers knew just his name and nothing else about who he was outside of work.
新庄さん、マスコミへの対応どうしますか？海読みテレビやニコニアのネット記者が引き下がらなくて。
Nikonia's net reporters. So this is a world where like basically YouTube like news people go physically and do recordings on site and are recognized as types of reporters. That'd be like DeFranco showing up at a Congress like press conference and being allowed to be like as much a part of the press as anybody else, which I would love to see that more often. But usually YouTube news networks or news channels are not treated like traditional news media.
それから現場にいた例の子たちですが、壁標の新聞部と言っていた2人、状態は落ち着いたみたいなんですが、やはり所々要領を得ません。
Right. So that we're actually being interrogated here. Okay.
もう一人の女の子も身元を示すものを何も持っていなく、柿田の交友関係、親戚筋から洗っていますが、まだ当たりません。こっちは完全黙秘です。
And the blonde girl with bleeding eyes, she's still here and alive.
あと、先ほど検視の方から問い合わせが。
待て、勝手に。
Oh, what's going on?
ニコニアニュースの渡部です。すいません。一体何が起こって。
Oh my gosh, you dude, you don't do that. A news site offered by Nikonian's videos that provide information on a number of topics. The site primarily consists of articles regarding news stories submitted by various groups and individuals, but Nikonian's has recently started attempting to do their own reporting, including sending out their own reporters to conduct exclusive interviews. So yeah, this is a pretty new thing. I wonder if this is going to become a thing in the future. Maybe it is in some format, but as far as I know, this isn't really much of a thing. I do know though, like, so we have a local cable company. I don't want to say which because I could be a little too much information, but this like internet provider that's pretty common. I think they have a lot of widespread connections like across the United States. They have their own news network, like a news channel that they broadcast. Like I think it's free on any of their cable services, but I've seen it in other places. I don't have cable, but like I assume that's where where you'd get it because I see it around. And it's odd to me that an internet provider has its own news channel. Which is nuts to me. I think that's wild. And maybe that this is something along those lines.
出て行け！許可なく入るな！
一言お願いします。
Arrest him. Shinjo's men practically dragged the reporter out of the room. That's crime scene contamination. That would be that's like interfering with a crime scene. That is like at least in America, you can go to jail for that. He had to stop himself from putting his hands on his head and moaning. He couldn't let his men see him actually acting weak. Shinjo had been with the police HQ Section 1 for less than 7 years. He didn't get along with his superiors, but he'd managed to beg his way into being in charge of this case. Maybe this was his way of avenging the death of an older detective whom he admired. Is that gonna be Ban? I hope so, because Ban's awesome.
窓枠の鑑識が終わったらすぐに外から見えないようにしといてくれ。あのネット記者は最近何するかわからん。
Right.
はい。検視は俺が直接対応する。それから会社の仕事周りへの人数を増やしてくれ。上には後で俺から言っておく。
はい。それで例の子たちは？
それも俺が持つ。じゃ、よろしく頼む。
All right. His men raced out of the room. They'd never seen a case like this before, and they were probably pretty excited. So was Shinjo, to be honest. The whole thing was such a mess that he didn't even know where to begin, but his detective instincts were screaming at him to start doing the work needed to find the killer.
よし。
はい、信用調査会社フリージアでございます。
Wait a minute. I know who you are. Really? His call was answered first, ringing like always.
俺です。
あら、新庄ちゃん、遅かったわね。もうちょっと早く連絡が来ると思ってたけど。
So she's still an informant, even here, even now.
あ、すいません。
Shinjo apologized without thinking and for no clear reason. He always felt like a naughty child when he spoke to the CEO, who happened to be a woman.
現場の面倒をちゃんと見てるから苦労すんのよ。少しはあの人みたいに、チャランポランで行きなさいな。
先輩の性格まで見習うつもりはありませんよ。
真面目だわね。いつまでも真面目が美徳だと思ってると、痛い目見るわよ。
百瀬さん。そんな
Yeah,
ことよ
I
り
knew it.
相談したいことがあるんです。
Now, of course, we also have the little hint that she's somehow involved with the Council 300, but anyway, Momose. Shinjo cut her off before she could continue her lecture and gave a brief description of the scene. This was a violation of their rules, but the only way to solve a crazy case was to be a little crazy yourself. This was the first thing he'd learned from the older detective.
それって殺人なの？自殺なの？
Momose asked her question after he described the situation. She cut to the heart of the problem.
現状ではそれがわからないんです。
The hotel had gotten suspicious when Kakita had never come down to checkout time. When more than 10 calls to his room went unanswered, they'd contacted the police. 2 officers, as well as someone from the hotel, had gone to the room when they found the body and the unconscious girl. Okay, so she was in the room. One officer stayed at the scene to keep it secure, the other had searched the hotel to make sure it was safe. During his search, he'd forgotten to lock the employee entrance at the back near the stairs, and that's how the 2 students from Hekiko had gotten in. Shortly after he'd left the room, the girl woke up and started strangling the officer who'd stayed behind. Oh. He'd hit his head on the edge of the glass window and knocked himself out. So she went kind of crazy. Why? He was going to be fine, but he'd been out cold until backup arrived. Whether the backup... Yeah, see, look, there's some... like, that might be just a curtain, but it looks like someone in a dress standing in the window. When the backup got there, they found the girl unconscious on the floor. The boy from Hekiko was passed out on the floor, too. The other girl from Hekiko was throwing up, also on the floor. What a mess. Kakita's cause of death was asphyxiation via strangulation. The wire around his neck was the kind used at a construction site. It had been hung in an X pattern from the lights on the ceiling, and he'd been sitting on the bed as it rotated. That's why there was so much pressure on his neck that finally his head had been severed. From the estimate time of death, Kakita had passed away before the police had even been contacted. The body on the bed kept spinning in time to the music, one rotation every 2 minutes. In the end, the man's head had been completely cut off completely. The problem was the girl in the room. There was no indication she'd ever touched Kakita. There were no fingerprints or any signs that she'd touched Kakita's body, the bed, or the wire. The only things that they found on her fingernails were skin and blood from the officer she'd strangled. In fact, there was no indication she'd touched much of anything in the room. Everything they'd found belonged to Kakita. And according to the officer she strangled, when she attacked him, she'd clearly been in an unstable psychological state. Her eyes had been bloodshot and out of focus.
つまり何？その女の子は柿田って男が死ぬのを黙って見ていて、部屋の中のものにほとんど触れず、混濁した意識のまま警官に襲いかかって首を絞めたと。
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff in that doesn't make sense. Shinjo scratched his head as he heard her sum up the situation. That was what it looked like, at least from what they knew right now. And just going by that, it sure looked like suicide. But it was all too strange.
なるほど。厄介だわね。現場に入り込んだっていう壁砲の子たちは？
ショックが大きかったようで、最初は何も喋らなかったんですが、今は少しずつ話し始めています。
Right.
ですが、いろいろと問題のある壁砲の子ですから。
Yeah, that place has some issues. He checked with the school and verified that they were part of the school's newspaper club. The security camera at the rear entrance had seen them coming in, which matched up with their testimony. But he didn't know what to make of their testimony that the door had opened on its own or that somebody else had tried to come into the room. The door was equipped with an automatic lock. The only person inside the room could have opened it was that girl. but there's no sign of her fingerprints on the door. And the security camera in the hallway showed no signs of anyone else trying to go in. In any event, it was extremely rare for a civilian to see a dead body outside of a funeral. And in an unstable mental state, it would be extremely easy for them to imagine things or just outright be mistaken about what was going on. If they turned out not to have any relationship to Kakito or the girl, he planned to let them off with a stern warning. Oh yeah, you come into a murder scene, possibly contaminate it. Just get out of here, you bunch of kids.
結局のところ一番大きな手がかりは部屋に潜んでいたその子なんですが何も喋りません。
そのままだと非感知よね。
Psychiatric hold. That's probably where they are put into a asylum rather than put into prison. Used here to refer to the act of keeping someone in custody in a designated location, such as the mental hospital chosen by the police until their psychological state is normalized. That makes sense.
はい。そうなると大幅に捜査が遅れることになるので、そうしたくないんです。
Right.
わかったわ。ちょっと情報を回させてちょうだい。多分、新庄ちゃんの立場的に無理してもらうことになるから、覚悟はしといてね。3分後にこっちからかけ直すから。
Dang, she works fast.
あ、助かります。よろしくお願いします。
Shinjo went to hang up the phone.
あ、ちょっと。
はい。
そういえばお願いがあるのよ。絶対に新庄ちゃんのためにもなることなんだけど、聞いてくれないかしら。
Oh, what's that? So it was basically an order then. Shinjo thought to himself.
何ですか？
この件に関して、私より詳しいうちの子が一人いるのよ。それで、今回の現場を直接見たいって言ってるんだけど、お願いできない？
One of my kids. Could that be some of the original team?
部外者を現場に？
いつだって物事を解決するヒントを与えるのは部外者よ。
That's not true, but okay. After all, I'm an outsider too, she continued. In his head, Shinjo went over the steps he'd have to take and the time required to take them.
明日、いや、明後日で構いませんか？
さすが新庄ちゃん、話せるじゃない？よくそれで堅物揃いの捜査一課に残れてるわね。
Well, you basically have to file paperwork to say that they're a counselor, a specialist of some kind. You could take the route of psychic counseling.
では、よろしくお願いします。
あ、ちょっと新庄ちゃん。
He barely stopped himself from ending the call.
まだ何か？
念のためアドバイスをしとこうと思って2つね。言っておくけどさっきのは冗談じゃないのよ。
Right, it's gonna get hard for us, huh?
は？
チャランポランで生きなさいっていうやつよ。
I mean, it's a murder slash death.
これから間違いなく新庄ちゃんの理解の外にある事件は続くわよ。その時一番邪魔になるのは常識だから気をつけなさいな。
Oh, interesting. So she definitely is in more in the know.
肝に銘じます。
そこで真面目に返事しているようではまだまだね。もう一つはね。
Almost said pause for a second, then chuckled.
うちの子に取って食われないようにね。油断してると新庄ちゃんが部外者になりかねないわよ。
Uh-huh. September 30th, 2015, Wednesday. Same day.
なあ、ツイポ見た？
ああ、壁砲ボットのネタ画像でしょ。でっかいウーパがドヤ顔して光るように座って渋谷も変わったとか言ってる。
Okay, Hekikobot and Upa. We know what Upas are. So Hekihobot, a Twipo account followed by over 80% of Hekiho Academy students. Oh, interesting. So it's like the school's Twipo account. The account is popular for its variety of tweets, which include funny memes, news about discounts at cafes and restaurants near Hekiko, school rumors, and other things of interest to the student body. Despite the word bot designated to an automated posting program in his name, it doesn't post at a regular time and its posts vary in content, so it's said to be an actual account run by somebody at the school. and Upa, a ball-shaped mascot character from popular manga RailNet Kakuru, which began running Loco Loco comics in 2006. The later anime adaptation only started to increase the character's popularity, with large amounts of stuffed animals and other related merchandise being produced as a result. And that's our connection to Steins Gate. Now, I can't... Like, obviously, the Steins Gate never makes a reference to, like, the, you know, earthquake in Shibuya as far as I'm aware of. So I don't think they're actually, like, happening in the same world line. This is, like, a different world line, if I had to guess. But same universe.
そうそう、めっちゃ切なそうなの。あれさ、文化祭で使わね。渋谷復興の歴史の展示なんてどうせ誰も見ねえじゃん。
画像だけじゃ弱くない？なんかぬいぐるみとか実際に置かないと。
The male student started searching through Shibuya stores with a smartphone. He must have found something strange because he kept mumbling, "No way." Hey, Shinji, how you doing? Ito was recording the newspaper clips project for the festival. A bunch of random footage of preparation in the cafeteria. He's getting stock footage.
そんなもんで盛り上がってる場合かっての。
A body had just been found in Donganzaka yesterday, and all the students cared about was their stupid jokes. The body was found less than 10 minutes away from the school, but they barely even mentioned it.
ま、確かにまだ大掛かりには報道されてないけどさ。
The first reporters had been a major communications company on the website, and that's where Ito had seen it. It had been last night. It had made the morning news and the morning papers, but all that had been reported was the body had been found, that no details were known. And it was rare for a high school kid to check the TV news or papers every day. There was no word from Miyashiro. Ito was really worried about what happened at the Love Hotel, but he had no way of asking about it. He took out his phone, even though he knew he hadn't gotten any calls, and sure enough, there were no messages. He'd been doing that a lot since yesterday. He couldn't bring himself to make a call. He didn't know what to say. He didn't know what to say to a friend who had been taken away by the police. He's so annoyed. He's like... The laughing students irritated Ito in a way that he didn't really understand. He'd been planning on videotaping the entire cafe today, but instead he gave up and left.
撮影お疲れ様。
Hey, Kurusu. He went inside the club room and saw Kurusu was there.
連絡は
Kurusu's expression clouded over for a moment as she shook her head.
あれからは何も。
そっか。
Wakui, the club advisor, told him that Kurusu had taken a change of clothes for Miyashiro in the police station last night. She'd been told that neither Miyashiro nor Onoe were hurt. The police were probably going to let them off with a warning. If they weren't suffering any after effects from the trauma, they'd be let go in the morning. But school was over, almost evening, and there's still no word from either of them. Dang. Ito dropped into his chair.
たく、学校のみんなは平和なもんだよ。昨日のことなんてほとんど誰も話してないんだぞ。
そう。
そりゃあ東京じゃ発表されてるだけでほぼ1週間に2人のペースで誰かが殺されてるんだから、変死体があったってだけじゃ別に真新しくもないけどさ。
Is that really true? Like, I know Tokyo's got a ton of people, but is there 2 murders a week? I feel it's both high and low. I don't know how to explain that.
にしたってな。道玄坂なんてもろ近所じゃん。下手したらそこを通って登校してるやつもいるかもしれないってのに。つかいるだろ、うちなら。あれかな。あいつがいつも言ってるみたいに、社会に関するニュースを載せてるサイトとかにアクセスしないやつばっかりなのかな。
I mean, they probably don't.
わかりやすいね。
Kurusu chuckled. That's a cute pose. I like Kurusu. Kurusu, not Kurisu. I keep slipping to the Kurisu. No, Kurusu.
心配なんでしょ二人のこと。
Of course he is. Ito started to speak, but then choked it back.
別に。副部長こそ心配なんじゃないの？
Ridiculous, she chuckled.
怒ってる。処置なしだもの。セリカはともかくとしてね。忠告も聞かずに突っ込んで 無茶するからこんなことになる。伊藤君にも新聞部の文化祭の映像押し付けることになるし。
いや、別にそれは大したことないからいいんだけどさ。
ダメ。与えられた役割はきっちりこなすのが当たり前でしょ。
Oh, hello.
ここか。クルス、予算の件どうなってる？
Oh. Kawahara appeared. He's very out of breath. Interesting pose. So he clearly has a thing for her. Like, it's pretty obvious.
予算？
超過した予算をまとめたやつ。経理がまだかって。
Kurusu frowned as she realized her mistake.
ごめん。すぐにメールでまとめて送るから。
なるはやで。担当の教師が帰っちゃう前に。
Kawahara ran off before Kurusu had time to answer. And before he was even outside, Kurusu booted up the PC and started tapping on the keys.
何？
いや、別に。
Which of us is more transparent? That's what Ito was about to say before he stopped himself. Normally, it was impossible to imagine Kurusu not doing her job. Yeah, she's worried too. For a while after that, Kurusu focused intently on her work. Ito didn't have much else to do, so he watched her. When he looked carefully, he could see small dark circles under her eyes. She probably hadn't slept. And then Ito realized for the first time that Kurusu would probably come to the clubroom to see if either of them had contacted him. With all the preparations that were going on, there was no other reason for her to be here.
なんとまあ、あの女帝がね。
Yeah. Kurusu pressed down hard on the one final key as she finished her task. Then suddenly an unpleasant sound filled the room. It's like, what's her name? Oh, it's the game girl, and she's probably like, get off my computer. Yep, Hana, or Kazuki.
なあ。
わかってる。
I know. They looked over and saw Kazuki was nibbling on dried squid as she played her game, oblivious to everything around her. Here's interesting. Dried squid, I've seen people talk about that. Is that actually any good? I imagine it's probably an acquired taste. Ito had seen her come in after Kurusu had started her work. He thought she might say hello, but knowing her, probably not. He'd also seen her start to play her game. He'd been trying not to bring it up, but that was clearly impossible now. She must have been concentrating pretty hard. Her gaze was constant and steady. Oh, yeah, so somebody said in a comment last week that the ESO might be a reference to Phantasy Star Online. Because that'd be, because I think it's fantasy with a P, right? So PSO, ESO, PSO. But the thing that's odd though about that connection is like Phantasy Star, isn't that like a kind of like a sci fantasy? Like you have like magic and stuff, but it's supposed to be like a science fiction, really. Whereas ESO looks more like a pure like fantasy world, which is why it really feels like it's a better match in my mind to the real ESO in real life, but more specifically why I thought EverQuest. Granted, Phantasy Star Online makes a lot of sense as well because it like that kind of tracks with like the history. But EverQuest also had EverQuest 2. But EverQuest was also a really, really old MMO, and I don't think EverQuest was really popular in 2015. So Phantasy Star Online is probably more relevant to the time. Ito sighed.
こいつはいつでもマイペースだな。他人に興味がないのかね。
そんなわけないでしょ。この子は他の人よりほんの少しだけ自分が強いの。
Or video games is how she deals with stuff. You know, she's stressed, maybe she's worried. But she also seems like the kind of person that has a very stoic approach to life, where she'd probably be like, hey, they'll get here when they get here. Until they get here, we don't really have any, like, worrying about it does you no good, so why worry?
にしたってよ。
She's in the same club as them, he started to say, but Kurusu stopped him with a raised hand. She looked down at Kazuki's game screen.
そうでもなかったみたい。
Kurusu chuckled as she took off Kazuki's headphones.
カズキ、私はゲームやらないから詳しいことはわからないけど。
What?
この家の壁に向かって延々と火の玉出してるのは何か意味があるの？すごい勢いで燃え広がってる。
Yep, she's worried too. Kazuki looked back at the screen with a stunned expression on her face. She yanked her headphones out of Kurisu's hands and quickly put them on, then started to pound on the keyboard.
落ち着きなさい。というかその煩わしいスルメ、飲み込むか出すかしなさい。行儀悪い。
Oh. Kazuki may or may not have heard, but her struggles with her game for a while, and then... She froze like a toy whose batteries had run out. She heard something, huh? The squid she'd been chewing on fell out of her mouth and landed on the desk. She stared at it for almost 30 seconds, as if something impossible had just happened. Then she silently stood up and staggered over to the shelf where the electric coffee maker was kept, her mannerisms rivaling that of an incredibly fierce drunkard. Her face had turned pale.
Kazuki?
Yeah, what?
大丈夫か?
What is happening?
コーヒー入れてくれるのか?
Kazuki nodded in response to Ito's second question and started to make coffee with shaking hands. Girl, it's like 3 o'clock. Why are you making coffee? She made Kurisu her usual, with 2 cups of sugar, gave Ito a cup mixed with milk, then she made a cup for herself, black, but didn't drink a drop. Her forehead slammed into the desk with a thud, and she became so quiet that it was impossible to tell she was breathing.
Ne?
Kurisu looked at Ito for agreement as she cleaned up Kazuki's squid.
いや、そうか?
She was up all night, wasn't she? He took a sip from his coffee, not sure what to think. To him, none of this made any sense. Kurisu didn't say another word as she drank her coffee. Ito looked up from the blank ceiling and decided it was as good a time as any to ask. It wasn't that it was wrong, but it felt kind of awkward.
さ。
何?
あいつがこんなに事件に入れ込んでるのって、何か理由があんの?
Kurisu froze. She lowered her gaze and searched for answers in her coffee cup.
伊藤くんこそ、ずいぶん事件に対して熱心じゃない?
Changing the topic, huh? She seemed to be trying to change the subject.
俺はこういうのが好きな人だから。
こういうの?
猟奇的な事件。でも、昨日みたいに現場に忍び込むっていうのは。
That was going too far, he continued. Kurisu silently took another sip of her coffee. She seemed to be staring at a single point in the distance, lost in thought. It was clear that while she was seeing things around her, she wasn't paying attention to any of them. Seeing her like this scared Ito a little. Was it really that big of a deal?
別に言いたくなければ。
そういうわけじゃない。きっと基本的には伊藤くんと同じ。タクルも好きだもの、こういうの。
I have pressed X to doubt.
それに、危なっかしいところに首を突っ込みたがるのも昔からだし。
Why? I see, Ito said.
小学校からだっけ? あいつが副部長と一緒に暮らすようになったの。
Right.
ええ。正確には被災して少し経ってからだから、中学生に上がるか上がらないかの時だけど。
Yeah. Oh. Kurisu and Miyashiro are both what people called earthquake orphans. They'd both been in 6th grade when they'd lost their parents to the earthquake. Since they had no relatives to take them in, they'd been sent to the same orphanage, a group home known as Adobe Dormitory. The group home was just like a foster home. A small residential facility that serves as a home for those who require care in some way, most often children. Group homes are typically limited to a maximum of 6 people, and since these facilities are often homes of private individual families, they're said to offer more personalized care than those living in them. Kids like them weren't common in Shibuya these days, but they weren't exactly rare either. Miyashiro had been so badly injured during the earthquake that he'd become comatose. He was still in that coma when he arrived at the dorms. Dang. The head of the dorm was also the head doctor of the Adoba clinic downstairs, and so for a while, that was where Miyashiro was kept. Kurusu had taken care of literally all his needs. There were 4 kids at the facility. Kurusu and Miyashiro were the oldest. Since her birthday was earlier than his, she dubbed herself the older of 4 siblings and volunteered to take care of the other 3. I told you she had older sister vibes! Even back then, Miyashiro had a habit of being curious and getting into trouble.
だいたい天の弱だしね。みんなとは違うってよく言ってるでしょ。そんなことはないのに。
She spoke like a parent worried for her child's future.
でも結局、あの子は。
お疲れ様。
Oh.
おや、クルス君も来てたのか。
Whoa, are you?
連絡があったんですか？
The club advisor, Waikui, was quite relaxed when he came into the room. Kurusu quickly stood up and rushed over to him. Alright, if I'm going to pick any adult character that's going to become a traitor to us, it's this guy. He has all the look of like, oh, I'm a nice guy, but I'm secretly a murdering psychopath. He nodded and motioned for her to calm down.
ついさっきね。
Oh, fetch me.
大丈夫そうでしたか？
それはもちろん。ほら、伊藤君、すぐに体育館に行きなさい。
Why?
体育館？なんで？
軽音部が今からリハーサルをするって。いい文化祭の記録になるんじゃないかな。
I want to hear news! Kurusu's expression froze. And suddenly it changed.
涌井先生？連絡って、それですか？
Oh, she got dangerous on him too. Oh.
そうだよ。って、なんだいクルス君、機嫌がいいね。
Uh-huh.
あら、先生には機嫌がいいように見えますか？
Oh, she's scary now. Oh no.
行ってくる！先生も行こ
う！ちょっと。
Sensing the gathering storm of violence, Ito pushed Waiku out the door. Wakui. Kazuki looked up for a moment, but then slammed her head back on the desk. Oh, what a mess. What a Scooby gang. I like these guys a lot. Now that she was alone, Kurusu took out her phone and checked it. There was no message, of course. She sighed and looked at the board. The incident yesterday at the Love Hotel? Whether it was murder or suicide, from the way that Miyashiro and Onoe had looked when they'd been taken by the police, something had happened. Miyashiro had said it's something to do with the incident 6 years ago. Now it happened 3 times, there's no ignoring it. Yeah. There's something here. No, it was too dangerous. She couldn't let him get any more involved in this. She thought back to Ito's question about why Miyashiro was so interested in this case. Kazuki was still laying with her head on the desk. When she turned her head to the side, she looked like she was enjoying herself for some reason. When Kurusu saw that, she suddenly lost her desire to drink the coffee. Apologizing to her in her mind to Kazuki, she decided to pour it out in the water fountain. Wait, why? Okay, so she looks over. When she turned her head to the side, she looked like she was enjoying herself for some reason. What's that supposed to mean? That could imply weird things. What are you talking about? She headed to the water fountain upstairs, which is usually less crowded. She found herself looking down at the gaps between the tiles with the sound of her footsteps ringing in her ears. She could tell that she was walking slower than usual. Essentially, Kurusu was lonely. Aww. She remembered what she'd said to Miyashiro the day he'd first woken up at the clinic.
クルス、ママ。名前で呼んで。家族なのに、名字で呼び合うのはおかしいでしょ？
In the end, he...
あの子は
特別が気取りたいだけなんだから。
Oh. She knew why, she supposed. The event that had caused him to leave the dorm was still bothering him. Ooh, 2009. So this is the flashback to the actual event, isn't it? Okay. We're gonna save this for now. If I'm wise, I'll turn down the alarm so it's not blaring in your ear while I'm chatting here. But yeah, we're gonna stop here because being able to kind of come back to this is a good place to come back to, and it's been a decent long episode. Okay, so new gen case number 3. I don't know. Like I'm trying to think of a clever name for it. All tied up, maybe, or twisted. Maybe just twisted would work well. Pretty intense. So, girl with the blonde hair and the twin tails. She's probably going to be involved somehow, right? Her uniform didn't look like a school uniform though, so I don't know what she was doing there, and how she was involved, and why she had a psychotic break where she tried to kill somebody. She just got caught in the backlash of some kind of like, you know, metaphysical assault, a delusion that was given to her. And when the knocking came to the door and no cameras could see it, is that just the cameras being tricked by a delusion? And there was someone actually there, or were the knocks part of like the actual psychic assault? Maybe the people that we saw aren't actually people you see. Maybe the person sees people, but they're actually like the psychic imprints of people that aren't actually physically there. I don't know. Yeah, we'll have to see. Anyway, lots to explore. Very, very interesting. Very excited to see what happens next. Thank you all for joining me. Hopefully you had a good time. Hopefully there's a lot to digest about this one. And I had some theories starting to creep out through the woodwork. And if it's anything like Steins Gate, I might get lucky and actually get accurate on one of them. But you shouldn't tell me if I am. Let me live in my, my world where I'm just kind of throwing out my thoughts as I go. And we'll see kind of where the truth ends up taking us. Chaos Head was so unpredictable, and the rules are so like malleable. It was really difficult to really get a grasp on things. I'm hoping this game might have a little more foundation to it, but still, we're talking about delusions. Delusions by their nature are not going to be predictable, or they're not going to follow standard rules. Like, there are going to be some kind of rules to them, like the blind spots and all that, but that's still very, very, very vague, and the writer can kind of play with that in ways you might not expect. So it'll be interesting. But thank you so much for joining me today. Hope you had a great time. Hope you enjoyed yourself, and I certainly have. And I'm grateful to have you here. Thank you for your support, and hopefully we'll be able to see you in the next video. So until next video, watch me up and see me in next. I'll see you there.